Good morning and welcome to this press conference hosted by the Grenada Football Association for today, Monday, May 15. As usual, it's our pleasure to keep everyone in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique abreast of what is happening in the world of football. And joining us this morning is our president, Mr. Marlon Glean, and to his left, a very special gentleman. And today we are going to be speaking about updates regarding our senior men's national team and some other matters. So I will hand it over to our president, Mr. Glean, to provide the updates. Mr. Glean.
Thank you, Ria. Special good morning to everyone here, our senior men's national team staff, the reporters, all the media companies represented here today. Good morning to our second vice president, Mr. Randy Campbell, and to everyone watching, listening from across the world. Good morning to all. We're here today to make a special announcement. As you're aware, we're continuing to develop our football product. We know we're close to being where we need to be. And as a result, we're going to continue to put the pieces in place to ensure that our senior men's national team, our national teams, are in a good position to compete and compete with the best in the world. Today we're here to announce that we'll have a new head coach for our senior men's national team, effective immediately. Let me give you a bit of background. Terry Connor, as everyone calls him TC, is a former England professional football player based in England. He has Caribbean roots. He understands Caribbean players. He understands football. He's been around. He's played at the highest level. He's played in the English Premier League. He's even played England under 21. But then on a coaching level, he's coached extensively in the English Premier League. Also, he's coached international football with the Republic of Ireland. So he has a wealth of experience, knowledge. He's coached a lot of notable names in and around England, including our own Jason Roberts. He coached Jason Roberts some time ago. So he came highly recommended, but also his work speaks for himself, as he coached a lot of English Premier League teams over the years. What we expect from Terry is twofold. One, to improve the level of our national team. And that's our first objective, to make sure that we're playing at a higher standard, to ensure that the team is performing better. But additionally, and critically, is that he helps develop our young coaches. We have a cadre of young coaches in Grenada today that are decent coaches. But what they need is to see the football from another side. A lot of them grew up, playing the game in Grenada and being coached by coaches in Grenada and not too exposed. So we expect Terry to use his experience, knowledge of the game, his connections in the UK to help continue to grow our young coaches. When we came in sometime in June, immediately we appointed Anthony Modeste as our interim head coach. And the intention was to expose him, to understand and see for ourselves as to how far he can take the team. Bringing Terry here is not a relegation. Anthony is still regarded as one of our better coaches in Grenada, and we'll continue to grow him, we'll continue to develop him. A matter of fact, only last week he completed a B license in Trinidad and Tobago. So we're going to continue to provide all the support that's needed to ensure that he develops, not only him, but the rest of the coaches on all our coaching staff in Grenada, whether it's under 14, under 15, under 17, under 20. We have to, this is one of our biggest challenges in Grenada, getting our coaches up to speed so that they can compete, not just coach in Grenada, but they can coach throughout the region and around the world. But to do that, it takes some time. We're not going to get or remove our coaching staff and bring in a completely foreign staff. You know, in conversation with Terry, or one of our first conversation is, how do you come in by yourself and help upgrade what we have here? Not come in with a coaching staff to replace what we have here. So from early he understood, and he was happy to, and he was excited about that position because for him, he also wants to come in and contribute towards Caribbean football and Caribbean football development. So he also understood the task, and he was happy that we were in the process of keeping or maintaining our current coaching staff. So we're going to continue to grow our technical team. We're going to continue to develop our technical team. Our coaches are going to continue to get licenses. We have more licenses coming up in the latter part of this year so that they can grow, they can upgrade themselves. Additionally, we have spoken with Terry as to how do we get attachments for some of our coaches at some of the Premier League clubs in the UK. How do we get some of our coaches, the same Anthony Modeste, and some of the other guys, how do we get them to the UK for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks to just observe and see how coaching is done in the Premier League? So we're going to continue to develop. This period is a very critical period for Grenada football. As you're aware, we have a play-in game to get into the Gold Cup on June 17th against Guyana. Immediately after the Gold Cup, we have to prepare for the next version of the Nations League. Again, we're going to be in League A, and we're going to be playing with the best of CONCACAF, playing against the best of CONCACAF. So it's a critical period over the next couple of months, and we have to make sure that our men's national team is prepared and is at a certain standard, a certain level to compete. We have to be able to compete, otherwise it defeats the purpose of us participating. No longer Grenada should be a participant in competitions around the region and around the world. We have to be able to compete, otherwise probably we shouldn't show up. So the idea is for Terry to come in and try to help steer us in the right direction and try to help steer our personnel, all of our young coaches in Grenada. How does he contribute towards their growth, towards their development? So when he leaves, we have a higher standard of coaching, and we have a higher standard of national team play. So I want to take this opportunity now to welcome Terry to Grenada. It's a pleasure having you here, and we're looking forward to working with you during your time here in Grenada. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, so you just heard it from the president, our new senior men's head coach, Mr. Terry Connor, and I know invite TC, as he likes to be called, to deliver some remarks.
I think Marlon said it all, really. The President said it all, really. First thing I will say is that I'm not special in any way. I'm just a hard-working coach who's had a few experiences. Marlon touched on working at the highest level and playing at the highest level, which I feel a real sense of pride in doing so. But I know where my roots came from, and I know what my dad's journey was from St. Kitts to England to give me an opportunity to do the things that I've done in my career. So it was really important that I try and give something back, and he'll be a very, very proud man knowing that I've returned to a Caribbean island to try and put something back into the Caribbean culture, if you like, and way of life. Having left in 1955 to go to England to try and make a better life for myself and my family. Obviously, it's a very proud moment for me personally to be the national head coach of Grenada, and like Marlon says, I hope to leave having left something positive and Grenada in a better situation than today. So with the help of the coaches, with the help of everyone at Grenada FA, hope we can all work together and pull together. And speaking to the coaches yesterday, it was we were talking about what Grenada had done in the past, and I think we'd reached a highest point of 88th as a world ranking. At present, we're at 173, so we have some work to get back to that 88 and better. So with everyone pulling in the right direction, with everyone giving their best, hopefully we can change the landscape of Grenadian football.
Thank you, Coach. And I now invite members of the media to pose any questions that you have for the President or Coach Connor.
Good morning, Coach. Firstly, what is your first order of business as head coach of the senior team?
To do press conferences. Obviously, we have the Gold Cup, and everything leads to the 17th of June. So our preparation starts this evening with the players. I've spoken to the staff, spoken to people around the FA, and all our efforts will be geared towards the 17th of June and making sure we get a good result against Guyana.
In regards to the senior men's team, what are some of the challenges you foresee? I don't know if you had a chance to review the team past games or so, but what are some of the challenges that you foresee going forward, and how do you aim to fix some of those issues?
It all takes time. It all takes time. The first thing to do is to get everyone. It always sounds like when you get a new job, that you say things that maybe the previous coach didn't do. So everyone says, "Oh, they didn't do this, they didn't do that." That's why you're where you are. So I'm really respectful that the previous coaches. I respect them and what they've done. But I personally would like to make a difference in terms of how Grenada play, the structure of the team, and to give the nation an identity in terms of how they go about playing their football, not just at senior level, but also throughout the teams, throughout the ages.
Coach, good morning.
Morning.
Certainly want to welcome you to Grenada. I want to wish you well. You want to tell me that football, we are passionate about football, and we want to see you do very well. My first question to you, though, is that you are coming to an area, you spoke about being part of St. Kitts, which is Caribbean, but my fundamental question is a culturalization with the Caribbean football, which is amateur, and you being someone who is at the level of a professional league. Any sort of orientation you would need to sort of, I don't want to say adapt, but to familiarize yourself with our behavior in the Caribbean. And I think our president perhaps would know what I'm talking about. Basically, I'm saying that we are amateurs. So we sort of at times reluctant to even follow instructions. So I'm asking you, any form of acclimatization you would need to become familiar with our behavior?
No, not at all. I know what I want, and that's my aim, is to get that out of the players with the help of the staff, and we'll all learn, we'll all work together, but I have no reason to doubt their commitment or their ability to take on instructions. or for the coaching staff to be able to coach on the same level as myself. We have to be adaptable, we have to be flexible. It would have been easy for me to have said no to Marlon and to Grenada and say I'm happy to continue working in England or find employment in England, but I desperately wanted to try something different, and I desperately wanted to do something in the Caribbean if I possibly could. So when this opportunity came, I grabbed it with both hands, because I believe that in life you've got to put something back. And I know what my father sacrificed for myself and my brothers and my families in England, and if I in any way can help Grenada football team to aspire to be better, then I think it's almost part of the duty to come and do it. And amateur or not, professional or not, we can still all work together to improve the situation.
Let me just follow up with your impressions of the Caribbean standard of football. Jamaica has done exceedingly well. Grenada has done exceedingly well, I think, too. But what's your take on Caribbean football? Is there a particular style of Caribbean football that you would want to develop re-Grenada?
Obviously, in the Caribbean, you find some very skillful players, and they've transported that across the Atlantic, if you like, to Europe, and particularly into England. There's been lots of players that have come out of the Caribbean and done very well. The standard and the quality is there. Maybe some structural work, maybe the way that we set up, teams set up, maybe the understanding of, this may sound strange, but how to get results out of games when perhaps you're not the favourite to win the games, but you can somehow get your result because you all work and pull in the same direction. Those are the types of things that you can bring to players who have individual skills and individual qualities. If you can bring them together, then you should have the makings of a good team or a good national team.
Let me ask a final question. We have, in my opinion, I support it really, the Grenadians who are foreign beasts. These players.
Obviously, yeah.
We have had a mixture of bringing the foreign beasts, combining them with the locally based players. I'm asking you, will that be part of your going forward?
Yes, of course. If anyone qualifies for Grenada to play for Grenada, wherever they play their football, we should consider them. If they're the best players, then we should consider them and bring them to play for Grenada. Of course, yeah. So if they're from overseas and they are good players, then we marry them with the best players that we have playing in the local leagues, and we pick the best 23 players, and certainly that's my aim in terms of the 17th of June and working towards the Gold Cup. I have no allegiance to foreign players or local players. I'll just pick the best 23 that myself and the staff can prepare to play Guyana on the 17th of June.
I have a few questions for Mr. President. First off, you alluded to the fact of the mentality of our local coaches. What are some of the plans being put in place in terms of getting our coaches to see the bigger picture? We have had coaches come in and leave, and one of the main problems is our local coaches not being able to see the vision. So what are some of the plans you have in place so that those coaches and them can realize and see the vision of football itself?
I'm not sure if it's an issue of mentality. I think it's more cultural than anything else. You see, most of our coaches would have been trained locally over a period of time, and they've just became part of the culture at some point. And that is to be comfortable doing what we're doing locally. In the past, we've had foreign coaches who would have come here and done stints over a period of time. But Terry would tell you, one of the first conversations I had with him is, how do we help our local coaches in Grenada? Not just on the senior men's national team, but how do we help? Because one of the questions he had asked me, do we have a group of potential young coaches that can move forward? And he said he would like to identify them early. The whole idea is to provide whatever opportunities we can. So far we've done a C license. We completed a C license. We have another C license coming up at the end of the year. Only last week or 2 weeks ago, Anthony Modest went to Trinidad and Tobago to complete a B license. But a lot of the times, as much as we provide in licenses, and that's something we're going to be big on, making sure that all our coaches are at a certain level in terms of a certificate or certification. But most importantly, how do we do actual training of coaches that doesn't require some sort of fancy license or certificate at the end? But how do these coaches understand, as you say, the bigger picture? How do they, how does a coach aspire to become a coach and that wants to coach anywhere in the world, not just in Grenada? So in speaking with Terry, the idea is, how do we, from time to time, do workshops here? Additionally, how do we get some of our young coaches, the brighter ones, and brighter in terms of, the attitude, in terms of the passion to do more? How do we get some of them exposed to some of the clubs in the UK, etc.? So I spoke with Terry on numerous occasions. How do we get a few of our coaches during our downtime in Grenada to travel to the UK and sit at Watford or sit at Brentford or sit at Brighton and spend a week or 2 weeks just observing the team and how they do their coaching in preparation for a game on the weekend. And after the game finishes, how do they do the assessment at the first day back in training? So we need to provide opportunities, because at the end of the day, if we empower our personnel here, if we build capacity here, then our younger players will be trained at a higher level. And that's where the football development starts. If we continue to bring coaches here, they coach and then they leave, without empowering our young coaches, then we're not going to be getting players coming through. And that's been a problem in Grenada over the last 10 to 15 years. We haven't been having really good players coming through. There once upon a time when we had 10 and 15 guys that can possibly play almost anywhere. We had lots of different generations of players that could possibly play almost anywhere in the world. But over the last 15 to 20 years, it's almost difficult to say, okay, this guy could possibly play in the English Premier League. This guy could possibly play in the US, in the MLS or somewhere. It's almost difficult to put a finger on a player or two. Once upon a time, our national team players were household names. Everybody in Grenada knew Patty Modest. Everybody in Grenada knew Corey Charles. Everybody in Grenada knew Zagada Cyrus, C.J. Williams, and the list goes on. Today, a national team player may walk in the room or walk through town and nobody really know who he is. So we have to get back our players at that level. So that means we need to have groups of players graduating through the different age groups and competing at the different age groups. We cannot have a national team at U14, losing all 4 games in CFU and in CONCACAF, and then at U15 you lose all their games, and then at U17 lose all their games, and then we expect our senior national team to qualify for the Gold Cup or qualify for the World Cup. It's not possible. Every successful senior national team we've seen in the past, the Spain team with Fabregas, etc., the Nigeria team with Canu and those guys, the Argentina team with Messi, all these guys, all these teams, they've been very good youth national teams at under 15, at under 17, at under 20. Grenada hasn't had a really good dominant youth national team in quite a while. So we have to get back to making sure our national teams are really good at the younger ages, and then we can look at being very good at the senior level. And it goes back to, as I said, most importantly is making sure we have our coaches operating at a higher standard, at a higher level. And Terry understands it, and we're looking forward to him helping our young coaches while he's also helping the senior men's national team.
Onto the point that you just alluded to, in terms of the youth teams, Grenada has a lot of talented, not only footballers, we have athletes and so. But one of the main issues is mentorship. Any plans to pursue that? Because we have a lot of talented youths out there, and some of them drop on the wayside because of drugs or whatever it is. Plans in terms of that?
I think you raise a good point. I always say, we have a Kirani James who eventually went on to win an Olympic gold medal. But I've seen for myself firsthand, Kirani's from my community, so I've known Kirani for quite a while. But I've seen for myself firsthand, kids, even during the same period as Kirani, and before, who I thought possibly could have been much more talented than Kirani James. But they never got to that opportunity. They never got to that gold medal at the Olympics. And not just in track and field, but football, and basketball, and cricket, and table tennis. And the biggest challenge is most of these players will not manage over a period of time. And if we are serious about sports, not just football, about sports in Grenada, we have to be able to identify and manage over a period of time. Kirani was fortunate that he was part of a club that literally held his hand throughout the process. And it's track and field. So it's easy to manage that one person over a period of time. Football, we're talking about large numbers. So there must be larger resources, and there must be more personnel around that bigger group. So we have to be able to, identify and then manage. And that's when we start the National Grassroots Program, which is going to be coming up very soon. The National Grassroots Program is not just about every kid playing football every Saturday. We're trying to flood Grenada with football. So every kid in Grenada, boy or girl, should be playing football every Saturday morning. Thereafter, we're going to be identifying the talent throughout the grassroots programs and then putting them into training. It's going to be parish teams for us, and then it goes on into a national pool for U10, U12, U15s. And throwing resources behind those different pools so that these players can develop together over a period of time. In 1989, we had a U19 team that went on to the last round of CONCACAF qualifying. And I've always said that's probably one of the best Grenada youth teams I've ever seen in my lifetime. Our second vice president, Mr. Randy Campbell, was part of that team. And we had some of the most talented players I've ever seen in my your brother was a part of that team also. But that team started out at under 15. And they were a very good under 15 team. I think they either won or came second in the Winner Islands under 15 competition right here in Queen's Park. And then eventually they went on to under 19, qualified from Trinidad, and went to Guatemala in the final round of CONCACAF qualifying. That's where Dwight York eventually made his name from and became a big star. And we had players on that team that were very good. Maybe not the Dwight York level, but right there with him. We had Baby Henry, we had, Glendon Langine, we had Desmond Monroe, Curt Mason, and we had a bunch of players. That pool was so deep. And right after that, we had a national under 15 team, and we had guys like Kenny Murray and Nixon Modeste and Corey Charles, and we had another big pool of players that was right behind them. So we've done it before. We've had these guys over a period of time, and once one group graduated, the next group came. But there's been a disconnect somewhere. And the only way to get it back is to bring those pools together again and make sure we manage them over a period of time. And if we do that, then we're going to start seeing success. And not just seeing success in a one player getting an opportunity, but success where we have different pools where there's 10 or 12 guys at 14 or 15 that we can export anywhere in the world. We've done it before. I have seen players in my own eyes, Otis Fraser from Guelph, Baby Henry, Patty Modeste, who can possibly play probably anywhere in the world. Now we have more opportunities, we have more resources. The players are there sitting somewhere in River Road, somewhere on the Lansing Guelph, somewhere in Victoria, they're sitting there. But we have to identify them and manage them over a period of time. And that's the only way Grenada football is going to rise.
Final two questions. In regards to the new coach, what's the length of the contract, and what are any other changes to the coaching staff?
I wouldn't want to go too much into details of the contract. What I can say is that when we engaged Terry, most importantly was the Gold Cup and the Nations League. That goes September, October, and possibly November if we qualify to the next round of the Nations League. That's critical, and the aim is to get through these first, and then we start looking long term as to what happens next. But critical right now is ensuring that we can get into the Gold Cup after we would have gone past Guyana, the winner between Trinidad and Guadeloupe, and thereafter preparing for the Nations League. Again, we're going to be in League A. So preparation for League A, which also goes as an opportunity to play into the Copa Americas. If we do well in the Nations League, September, October, we go into the playoffs of Nations League in November, and an opportunity to get into the Copa America, where we possibly can play some of the greats of Central America and CONCACAF. So that is the immediate engagement to ensure that we can get through these two major competitions. The second question. The coaching staff remains the same. Anthony Modeste, who was the interim head coach, is going to step down back to his original position as the first assistant coach. Mr. Mark Marshall remains as assistant coach. So the coaching staff more or less remains the same. As I said, the idea is for Terry to come in and help develop these guys, rather than to come in and relegate those guys. And they're going to be very important. Terry's coming in. We have a game in probably 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks or so, and he doesn't know the local players. He doesn't know very well Grenada football, so it's going to be critical. The support of the technical staff is going to be critical towards any success that Terry is going to have. Is going to be heavily dependent on the support of the technical staff. So the technical staff are going to remain the same.
Basically, today is the 15th, the game is the 17th of next month. And I guess you would have a concept of a program you want to institute between now and when you leave for Miami. Will it involve matches against our neighboring country as part of your preparation? And I want to ask the president also, this is just a month before your game. Why couldn't you have had Terry maybe a month ago?
We started engaging a number of coaches quite a while now, even before the US game, about the long-term development sustainability of the senior men's national team. But we had to make sure two things: that A, we had the right person. That was important. We didn't just want to bring in a name or bring in a foreign coach. We had to make sure that the individual coming is not just going to help our senior men's national team, but also help our coaches in Grenada and help with the holistic development of football in Grenada. A couple weeks ago, Terry was coaching in the championship also. So even when I started speaking with Terry, there's a possibility that he may not be able to do it. But we spoke with a number of other coaches who also had English Premier League coaching experience. Some of them immediately we thought it was not going to be a good fit for Grenada because we wanted a number of things. That person needed to have some sort of understanding of the Caribbean. That person needed to have some sort of coaching experience with different facets of football and footballers. As I said, Terry came highly recommended. Our own Jason Roberts played for Terry a couple of years ago. And why now? We believe in terms of timing, it's the best timing to do it. We have a month before our first match. I think it's more than enough time to get our team prepared. But at the same time, anything earlier, remember also, most of our season players, especially those abroad, would have been still engaged in football up until this week. So there was no way they would have been getting out to start training, etc., with a national team. So it was just about timing. And we thought that this period here was possibly the best opportunity, the best time to make it happen. But additionally, in terms of what happens during the next month, we're going to do a camp here. So the players in the UK who've, between whatever the past coach, Anthony Modest, would have suggested to Terry, and those that Terry would have known from watching them play in England, they'll be coming in. We're going to do a camp in Grenada with everybody. And then we're going to do a one-week camp in the US prior to the game, the first game against Guyana. So we have 2 training camps. As of today, he starts with the local players to evaluate them. Every player starts from 0, and they'll be trying to earn a space in the 23 men that are going to eventually travel to the US to represent us. So he gets a chance to evaluate the local players over the next week or so before the players from abroad come in the following week. Then everybody is going to be evaluated as a team for a week, about 10 days, and then there's a 1-week training camp in Florida prior to the game against Guyana.
That's about right. Everybody wants Utopia. Everyone would love a perfect camp and everyone together at certain times and have, complete preparation. But it's not always possible. So you deal with the hand that you're given. So, like the President says, the next 10 days will give me, I think, enough time with the help of the coaches to be able to evaluate the local players and to get a good sense of what they can do. And then we wait for the foreign-based players to come in and we try and put them together. And between us, we will definitely pick the best 23 that goes to Miami and goes on to represent Grenada on the 17th of June. It's never ideal, but it's the hands that you're dealt with. And, my motto is to, you have what you get and you go with what you've got and you make the best of it. So we'll be making the best of it, and come the 17th of June, we'll be ready to play.
Mr. President, I just want to ask you one final question. First of all, I'm glad that your knowledge of history is that great because I always say to people, the era you talk about is still very much in my mind. I covered football during that era. It leads me to the question now to ask you. And no disrespect to those who were there before you, but your conferences are basically a disaster. I mean, 2022 is played in 2023. Your Premier League is disjointed. It starts now, then there's a big break for Wagiti or something, then it restarts. I'm a traditionalist. The British, the Bundesliga, the leagues all over the world seems to have a 6-month period or more, and there is interruption for Champions League, Europa League. We had that tradition for more than 80 years. In the last 10 years, we seem to have, I don't know whether it's copy or being adventurous. But Mr. President, I think what you have right now needs to be re-examined. And I would like to hear your thoughts on how you intend to go forward based on all that you have said to develop the game. To me, if you go forward with what you have right now, I don't see much improvement. So any thoughts on your presidency going forward and how you intend to make our Premier League and other leagues more dynamic?
Thank you, Ray. You're correct. I feel the same like you. I watch Premier League sometimes, I watch conference football sometimes, and it's a disaster. And I think it also reflects on the state of football in Grenada today. Because we have such poor leagues, we have poor national teams. And as a result, we have a poor product. The GFA is a poor product. Go back 20 years, we had sponsorship from everywhere for football. We had the Mackerson Cup, you had the Carib Cup, you had every cup, Republic, NCB, whatever it was. Now, we have a Premier League that's been going on for 3 years that cannot finish. Finish after 2.5 years or so. And we have a conference competition that's been going on for probably 3 years or so. And it still cannot finish. So we need to spend some more time, and that's what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks in terms of preparation for the beginning of this season. More effort, more energy, more time needs to be put into the organization of our local competitions. And on top of that, we need to have more football, more competitions. In the last couple of years, we haven't had any knockout competitions, and that used to be so much of a big deal for Grenadian clubs, especially the lower ranked clubs. Like the rest of the world, traditionally, the cups always comes up with an exciting finish at the end. But we haven't been able to do that. But if we go back to a well-organized, well-run league or leagues, then we're going to get better players coming through. We're going to get better teams coming through. We're going to get more fans coming out. But what we do, we just put on a competition, and whatever happens, happens. It seems like that's been what's been happening. So as a result, you go to watch a Premier League match in Guelph on a Sunday evening, and you can count the 15 people that's going to be at the game. As a kid growing up, you go to Guelph to watch a Premier League game, and there's at least a couple thousand people watching a Premier League game, no matter who comes to play. Now, you go over to the park here to watch Rangers play, and you can count the 20 or 25 people watching the game. Hurricane Rangers, 30 people. Hurricane Rangers before would be thousands of people. So we have to go back to restructuring the competition and getting Grenada back into our football. Because there's a big disconnect between the fans and the football. GFA is doing football, and nobody outside even cares or knows or anything. The national team games here sometimes, and I see people ask them if they're going to go to the game, and they're like, what game? Previously, in the 80s, early 90s, the entire Grenada would know Grenada is playing. And it's going to be reflected in the attendance at the game. And that's why, over the last couple of months, we've been trying to bring the football back to the community. So when St. Lucia came, we played in Sotez and in Guelph. When the team from Trinidad played, we played in Grenville. And we tried to bring the football back, get Grenada back into the football, because we have to be able to connect back to, the supporters and fans, and then cooperate Grenada. I was speaking with a major company in Grenada recently, and the CEO told me, in all honesty, they had no time for Grenada football. And that's a company that traditionally supported football. And said they really didn't have any interest in the GFA because they didn't see any value for them in investing in the GFA. So we have to get these people, we have to get the confidence back in some of these companies to come in. You know, we've been able to maintain Sanders, but how do we get all these other companies to come in and be excited about supporting and partnering with Grenada football? Because they're seeing the tangible benefits that comes from the support for Grenada football. Once upon a time, when you hear about Mackerson Cup, then you know that everybody's excited. So Mackerson is happy to be associated with the cup because the whole of Grenada is buzzing about Mackerson Cup. Today, there's a competition, and you say Republic Bank Cup, and then there's 2 people watching the game. Republic Bank is not interested in sponsoring a competition for 2 or 5 or 7 people to watch. So we have to be able to seek partners, promote our product, make sure we have a proper product so that people will be begging us to be part of it. And that's where the problem lies. So we have to be able to restructure these competitions and make it more appealing, not just to the footballers, but to the fans, to the community, to the sponsors. Make it more appealing. And if we make it more appealing, then the standard of play is going to improve because now people have an audience to play. And that is why the Warrior football is so attractive, because people have an audience to play in front of. In GFA football, there is no audience, and there is no interest, and there is no momentum, and there is literally nothing. So if we can make sure that there is everything necessary for the playing of the football, the fans to come out and enjoy, the sponsors to come on board, the structure is right. We do not have those long periods, those long breaks over a period of time. We have a fluid competition that goes from a start date to an end date with no hiccups. Then we're going to get the confidence back, and then the competitions are going to run seamlessly.
Any more questions? All right, that's it for now. So members of the media.
Your training is going to be, capital hall is going to be based in the surrounding stadium.
Yes, between the football stadium and the cricket stadium.
Any particular time after the day?
Today, it goes from 6. As a matter of fact, this week it goes 6 o'clock every evening. But we're also going to have a training session at 9 a.m. every morning for the players who are not working, so they can have an opportunity to train twice a day. So there'll be a 9 a.m. training and then a 6 p.m. training, where 9 a.m. would be for all the players who are free during that period, and then evening time would be for the entire team. So 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Today is going to be at the football stadium, but at some point we're going to interchange between football stadium and a cricket stadium.
So once again, I would like to say welcome to Grenada, Mr. Connor. He is our new senior men's national team head coach, and we look forward to the work that he would be putting in with our players. To the members of the media, we had quite a few of you with us here this morning. Thanks again for being here with us and then going on to share the good news with the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. And that's it from us here at the Grenada Football Association. To the people joining us on the World Wide Web, thank you for joining us. And to everyone, do enjoy the rest of your day.